Voidmage Gamer is now partnered with Flipside Gaming, so you can use the promo code on their website, all caps Voidmage, to get 10% off all orders $10 or more. It's a great way that you can support both Flipside Gaming and Voidmage Gamer's channel. Also, until October 7th, all orders that use the promo code will be automatically entered to win a booster box of Guilds of Ravnica. Entries are limited one per person just to keep things fair, so be sure to check that out. Hello guys, welcome back to another video. This is going to be the start of a new series. This is going to take the place of my Commander Tips series. Only reason why I'm going to be stopping that one is because it's kind of blending in with my Commander Deck Tech videos. Kind of hard for some people to tell them apart. So let's just start with something fresh. We're going to be going over themes, strategies. Haven't settled on an official title for it yet, but I did pull off a few options for my patrons over on Patreon, so go check it out. You could support my channel that way. And it looks like out of all the themes, the strategies that they chose, wheels were the most popular, so we're going to talk about those today. If you're not familiar with the card Wheel of Fortune, that's pretty much what we compare all wheels to, and that's why we call them wheels. Each player discarding all the cards in their hand and then drawing 7 cards. If anything is even remotely similar to that, it's going to be referred to as a wheel. There's also the card Windfall, which is kind of like Wheel of Fortune. For all intents and purposes, it's used exactly like it. It's a little bit better or worse depending on the total number of cards in everybody's hands. But when I refer to cards, I either call them wheels or windfalls. And there's other ways that we can wheel away cards, but these two are probably the most common that you're going to see. And you do have other variations of wheels that do shuffle graveyards and hands back into libraries before you're able to draw 7 or draw a certain number of cards. So they do vary, but for the most part, when we see a new card come out, we're going to compare it to Wheel of Fortune. This is a very popular strategy in the Commander format. We probably see it more in Commander than you really see in any other format, just because there are certain commanders that work out really well with wheeling away our opponent's hands and not just our own. And probably the oldest commander to really do this well is Nekusar the Mindraiser from Commander 2013. He just works out really well with giving everybody advantage, not just yourself, and it's entirely meant to punish your opponents for drawing an excess of cards, so using something like Wheel of Fortune or Windfall is going to work out really well with the guy. And this is of course in combination with all of the other clones of Wheel of Fortune, all the other variations of Windfall. They all just seem to work out really well, whether it's forcing your opponents to draw 7 cards, or off a Windfall you can get them to draw even more than that, forcing them to take a damage for each card they draw. This is in addition to other cards you're going to be playing in the deck like Howling Mine. The guy's just brutal to have to go up against if you have no way of gaining life. If you have no way of stabilizing, you can just get steamrolled by a Nekusar. And for a very brief moment in time, if you were unfortunate to experience Leovold, Emissary of Trest, wheel cards were absolutely brutal with this guy. Each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn. If you haven't already figured out why he's been banned, it's because forcing each opponent to discard their entire hands and then draw 7, well, they can't draw more than 1 card each turn, so they would only end up drawing 1. If you wheeled multiple times in a turn, their hands would be completely empty. This, on top of just being a very good engine for control, made the deck very difficult to deal with, so luckily he's banned. Another older option that you can go with if you want to focus on wheels is Niv-Mizzet the Firemind, because whenever you draw a card, you're going to deal 1 damage to target creature or player. So even though you're going to be giving your opponents new cards, you're hopefully going to be wheeling multiple times, forcing them to discard multiple cards. The benefit here is that you're going to be dealing 1 damage to a target creature or player for each card you're going to draw. This is of course ignoring the obvious combos with this guy. And you have another commander set option in Arjun the Shifting Flame. This guy's pretty much just a one-sided wheel for you. Again, they kind of vary. Some of them discard into the graveyard, some shuffle back into your library, some just put on the bottom. Basically putting one of your hands away, getting a brand new hand, is what we're going to refer to as wheeling. And Arjun does that pretty well on his own. This deck is just going to be crazy with drawing cards. That's entirely what you want to do. Throwing in something like Niv-Mizzet the Firemind even just to deal some more damage, or any sort of benefit off of drawing more cards. With something like the Locust God, which I would argue is one of the better commanders for wheeling, because every time you draw a card, you get to create a 1/1 blue-red insect creature token with flying and haste. So all you really need at that point, something like a coat of arms, and at that point, you have a flying army of massive insects. Doesn't really hurt that he's very difficult to deal with. But yeah, you just see a ton of value here off of drawing cards, those triggers alone. So it doesn't just have to be about punishing your opponents in the traditional Nekusar Leovold way, but it could just be about getting yourself all the advantage. Something that is really cool to pair up Wheels with is Cascade, more specifically Yidris Maelstrom Wielder. There are some Storm decks built around the guy because Cascade and Storm are just amazing, getting you more cast triggers. That's exactly what you want to do with that strategy. But Wheels are absolutely amazing if you have something like a Paradox Engine. You get a casting, you get to untap your mana rocks, you get a whole new set of cards in your hand with the wheels, and you're cascading into other things, maybe more wheels. It doesn't really hurt to have them in your deck because they're basically cantrips and decks that are desperate for more card draw. And if you really want to go off with something like a Paradox Engine, you're probably going to end up getting way more cards off of a wheel than you would with anything else. Something that I think is really underrated is Group Hug. You can of course play wheels to be more political. If you have any opponents you're trying to work with, if they need a new set of cards in their hand, a Wheel of Fortune and a Group Hug deck can definitely be helpful to a friend, build up some trust with people, or you could pretty much just end up building a deck that is kind of like a nice guy Nekusar, where you're not going to be dealing any damage to them, you're just going to be giving them more card draw off of Howling Mines and Wheels, with a low-key control shell of course, but I always liked working with Wheels and Group Hug anyway. But all in all, Wheels are very popular in Commander. You don't really see them dominant in any other format. The strategies that you can build around with them in Commander are amazing because commanders themselves interact with wheels, and you have consistent, reliable creatures that you can get out there and interact with them. Closest thing would probably be Time Twister and something like Vintage, which good luck finding one. If you think Wheel of Fortune is an expensive card, Time Twister is that times 10, probably even more than that. The card's just ridiculous. But this is pretty much a strategy for Commander. When it comes to encouraging people to play this format, this is one of those strategies that I think is unique to it. Just like Group Hug, you don't really see it anywhere else. Multiplayer Commander, I think, is really fun with cards like Wheels. I highly recommend you play at least one wheel deck, as I think they're some of the most entertaining to watch. Even if it's Storm, even if it's some crazy combo, I still think there's a lot of value in playing it. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this first video in the series. You guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.